kind of.
Very romantic.
Oh yeah, smooth.
And she's like, oh, I gotta get home. My curfew's at midnight, and he spins the clock back.
Yeah, he gets her watch, and he's like, oh,
and he says,
we got all the time in the world.
Oh yeah, my boy.
Marky Mark.
And and she gets in trouble, and the father thinks that it's kind of weird, and he's like, maybe I should meet this guy.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't even know if I'm going to see him again.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out that she's still in high school, and then they start hanging out again.
Yeah.
But then David's character, this is very important kind of theme, is that he's probably 20, 21, a few years older than her, because he's not in high school.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of lingering around.
Yeah.
And anyway, he picks her up. He drives. Obviously, that's a cool perk for a girl in high school.
Yeah, you'd see all the girls who are jealous when she goes to his car.
She's like, who's this bitch?
Yeah. And they say that her character is 16 or 17?
Yes.
16?
16.
I think he says that on the phone. Yeah, that's pretty young for a 20-year-old to go out with.
Well, the thing is, I would have said that he's 19, but they do this scene. Keep in mind what spot we're in. But later on, they show him in waiting at the bar for Nicole. It's like a coffee shop thing, but he has a beer in front of him.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So I'm saying, he's got to be able to drink.
Yeah.
So he's got to be at least 21.
Yeah, that's right.
I would say 21.
And it's okay.
And when going back to where we are in the story, when David basically tells Nicole one night that they're out, I want to meet your family. Is that okay? And she's got her little brother and the dog Kaiser and the stepmom and then the dad, Mr. Walker. And they finally meet for the first time. And he says, "Oh, well, you're not in school with Nicole, right?" And he says, "No, but probably UW in the fall, or something." So he's on his way to college, or should be.
Yeah.
And he kind of befriends the family. And at that point, the dad kind of accepts it too. He's like, okay, like, this guy seems all right.
I think up until that point where he tells Nicole to give him a Coke. Because, he's like, hey, Nicole, give me a Coke.
While talking to the dad.
Yeah, and then the dad kind of just is like, oh, that's
weird.
Like, his character kind of changed. His tone and voice and everything, from being like kind of soft spoken and really like a charmer, then he's like, it's kind of like those classic movies where like the husband gets home from work and he's like, give me a beer. It's kind of the same thing but with a Coke, and then he's just like
like he gets too comfortable,
and he lets a little bit slip. That's kind of how I felt. And then when Margot's character or Margot walks in and they're talking about trying to get their dad to go with them to the fair or wherever they're going.
And she kind of bends over, and I have never noticed this before until I was watching it with you, maybe because this is the Blu-ray version. She shows her underwear to him. Yeah. Straight up. You can see like...
She like bends over in front of him to tie her shoe, and her skirt lifts, and then he's just kind of sitting in his chair, and he's like staring at her ass.
But he thinks that you can tell that he feels uncomfortable, and he's like, this is weird. And then he looks over at David.
And he's smiling.
Like this creepy.
He's like, He's like, yeah.
Exactly.
Like, I see you. But yeah, you can definitely tell that he is like kind of uncomfortable. Like he's staring, and then he's like, oh, this is weird. And then, looks away. And then,
And basically, so David comes over with Margot to pick Nicole up, but she's still grounded for not making her
curfew the last time
from the first date type of thing. And so the mom gets mad, and the dad's like, you know what? Like, he kind of just lets it go. And then they end up. Oh, we almost missed. So he tells the dad tells David. listen, her curfew is midnight, not 5 after. And he says, okay, and he waits for the dad to turn around, and he changes the time on the clock.
He winds the hands on the clock that's on his desk.
So that's a big red flag for you as the viewer.
Yeah.
Why would he do this? Because he's pretty charming up until then. You're kind of with him, like, okay. And so the next thing that happens after they go on their date, the next day David comes to pick up Nicole from school.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And he sees her best friend
Gary.
She gives him a hug goodbye.
Yeah.
And David's a little bit late, and so he pulls up
as they're hugging,
and he sees them hugging.
And he straight up jumps out of the car and fucking decks him in the back of his head, and then beats the shit out of him on the ground. And then he fucking elbows Reese's character in her eye.
On accident.
He kind of like pushes her away because she's like, "Stop, David!"
Yeah, whisks her away, which shows you he has some anger issues.
Yeah,
early anger issues, and she's like, "Get away from me! Don't go, just go away."
Leave us alone.
And then so
you can kind of tell that he kind of doesn't know
what he did
wrong, which is another red flag. Where he's kind of just like, just punch the guy for you. It's okay.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm just protecting you.
Yeah.
And then so he leaves, kind of confused, and she doesn't know that she gets a black eye the next time we see her, and she lies to her family and says that she caught an elbow in
volleyball.
Yeah. And so you can tell that the relationship between her and the stepmom are kind of strained for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And that's how they kind of bond over the black eye. And then after that, I feel like you see the connection. Like Nicole,
they're getting closer together.
Yeah, Nicole starts accepting her as the kind of motherly figure that she needs, and she's still mad at David's character.
Yeah.
Doesn't know how to kind of move on from it, and she gets some flowers delivered to her house, which she throws away without opening the box.
Yeah.
And the dad's kind of like, they mention the black eye to the dad, and he immediately thinks like, oh, he may have hit her.
Oh yeah, did David do this to you?
What's going on? And
that's when he comes across the condom on the ground.
That's
right. The wrapper.
So they, in between this, the father has to go away on business, and he invites the stepmom to go with him so that they can kind of stay kind of romantic together, like rekindle what they've had, because you can see their relationship is straining as well. And so they do it, and they tell Nicole nobody in the house besides you and Toby. And of course, the first thing she does is disobey that rule.
Yeah, she calls David.
She calls David, gives David the code
for the alarm
to the house.
Yeah.
So he can come by after he does his apparent drug trafficking.
Yeah.
With his
buddies.
Shady buddies. And that he does that. He does that. He comes over. He unlocks the door, and he takes her virginity.
Yeah.
And I feel like up until that point, that's when he becomes very kind of jaded, and his perception changes on Nicole, and he becomes this kind of dark soul that's in love that'll do too much for this girl.
Anything, like above and beyond, like to the millionth level.
Yeah, like if it changed some chemicals in his brain or something. He was. I don't know. He was obviously a kind of like a criminal before, but something changed after.
It hit a switch in him.
Yeah, once they sleep together, he gets a little nuts.
Got the love bug.
Right. That's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
So the dad and Nicole later on, after they've slept together, they have kind of an argument in the room, and he finds the open condom wrapper, which is very sloppy.
Yes.
Might I add? Why didn't David Why didn't he put it in his pocket?
Just tossed it.
Yeah, he just threw it on the floor when he's not supposed to be there. Like, cover your tracks, man.
Come on, man.
Jeez.
God, you smart.
Marky Mark.
Not that smooth.
I know, right? So obviously the dad figures out that they've slept together and that things are getting serious,
which makes him even more overprotective.
Yeah, he's just kind of scared, and he knows how guys are, and he's got this kind of image of David in his head.
Because he already thinks that he's hitting her too, and then he feels like that's. I feel like he's losing his daughter. So
he does this. The dad does this background check.
Yeah.
On David, or Mark Wahlberg's character, and finds out that he is a foster kid who's bounced from home to home until he was 18, and they finally kicked him out. And I guess ever since then, he has no work record.
He's been off the grid.
No life. Yeah. No recorded life whatsoever. Which is
no home address, definitely no family.
Red flag.
Yeah, that's kind of
serial killer.
Yeah, pretty much.
And he's like, and what's interesting to me is that the mom kind of brushes it off. He's like, he was embarrassed that he's come from a broken.
He came from a broken family. He's an orphan. Like, it's not his fault.
Yeah, like, give the guy
kind
a break.
Of giving him the benefit of the doubt.
And it's because he's a charmer, and I feel like he kind of swindled, wrapped the stepmom around her finger too, because after the dad says you can't see him anymore, no going out with David, she's at Margot's house, right? And they're hanging out, and David and his buddies come and kind of crash the
little hangout.
Yeah. At the pool, and Nicole's completely repulsed by seeing David there. Yeah. She is about to leave, and he kind of apologizes and kind of swindles her once again.
He's like, I just saw some guy with his paws all over you, baby. Yeah. He's like, what am I supposed to do?
Basically, and he's like, that's never going to happen again.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Like, I just I want us to take care of each other. Smooth talker once again, and she believes him. And they rekindle what they had, and the dad comes home. Mr. Walker comes home.
Yeah.
To find David in his pool.
Yeah, and you see
his daughter. And
I thought that was really like a blow for him, because like you see David throw Reese's character in the water, and then the stepmom kind of gets up from her chair and she's like walking away, and then
he's like, where are you going?
Yeah, and he goes and grabs her and, like, has his hands all over her body, and then throws her in the water. Yeah, and so they he throws the stepmom in, and you kind of see the dad's face, like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, like, why is he here?
Yeah, and then he really does notice, though, when he takes it kind of like as an insult to his marriage, pretty much, or something, that he's kind of grabbing,
or just like that the mom was okay with it.
Yeah,
that she let him.
She's like, oh, like, well, wouldn't you rather have him here than have her sneak out in the middle of the night to go see him? Mm-hmm. And he's just like, oh.
And then she's like, you made the rules.
Yep. Kind of like,
boom.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is what you wanted.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that she just really liked the stepmom really liked him.
Yeah.
Or he had just sweet talked her,
Yeah, enough.
She didn't think she thought the dad was overreacting.
Yeah, pretty much
with him.
Yeah.
And what's the next thing that happens there? So everything's good, and then okay. So the dad the swimming pool scenario pushes the dad over the limit. So he's like, "This is my house. These are my rules."
Had enough.
He goes he goes to school, and you see David
waiting to pick up
Nicole.
Reese. Yeah, Nicole.
And he pulls over to David, the dad, and he says, "Meet me around the corner. I need to talk to you real quick. This won't take long."
Yeah.
And so they park around the corner from the school, and they have this kind of little heated conversation.
Yeah, he's like, this whole thing between you and Nicole is over with. You don't see her ever again.
He's like, you don't have to make this harder on yourself than it needs to be. Just disappear from my family's life, and we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And David doesn't take that too well.
Yeah, he kind of. David actually says,
You're really not a faggot.
Yeah, which was surprising when he said that. I wasn't expecting